Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Let's get it. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Also on Zodiac TV, on Max Sports and the Northeast Streaming Sports Facebook pages. The Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel. Also, Jack, we're on Instagram and Twitter. Like, share, comment, and please subscribe to the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel. For all the great Northeast Streaming Sports shows, our website is nessp.info. Check it out. All the shows, other information on the shows, on the guests that we have, our stores and links. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, legendary boxing writer and former president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, bringing you national sports with special focus on Northeast professional sports from New York, Boston, and Philly. Good morning, Jack. How are we doing today?
Good morning, Mac. Opening day's out of the way. We could be doing a little better. You know, if you saw the game yesterday, the Yankee game.
Oh, definitely.
Yankee fan, we could be doing a little better today.
Definitely. And Jack's coming to you live from Florida, folks, at his summer winter retreat. He's down there. He's hooking up in Florida with some family, friends. I hear he's out there running the roads and getting in a lot of trouble already, Jack. What did I tell you about?
Mac, I'm more sympathetic towards certain players like Kevin Durant with their hamstring. I mean, I went out to jog yesterday. I know I'm old. I've slowed up a bit, but a 17-minute mile to jog, it takes me 17 minutes with my pulled hamstring yesterday. I was very gentle on it, moving at a snail's pace.
Right. Well, hey, listen, you know, I take you one-on-one with Durant anytime, Jack.
Mac, you imagine how I'm feeling. People are looking out their car windows, seeing this old guy moving so slowly. I haven't slowed up that much. It's my hamstring. They don't know that. They just see this old guy moving along like I can walk quicker than jogging.
Yeah. Well, you know, they say slow and steady wins the race, Jack, so maybe you'll win the race. So let's get to opening day, Jack, right? A lot of teams, I think there was only one game. The Mets got canceled because of COVID issues on the other team, but a lot of games went off. We had Detroit beating Cleveland, the Padres 5, the Cubs 3, Milwaukee 6, the Twins 5. The Rays won 1-0, St. Louis 11, the Reds 6, Colorado 8, Dodgers 5, San Diego outlast Arizona 8-7. The Royals 2 touchdowns to Texas, a touchdown and field goal. And locally, Jack, the Phillies come up 3-2 over Atlanta. So for the Braves, Sandoval pushes across the 2 runs for the Phillies. Realmuto, Bohm, and Segura drive in the 3 runs. So Phillies jump out and win their first game at least, Jack.
You know, I saw the end of the Philly-Brave game, and there's always a little bit of an element of luck in baseball, and it was like a Baltimore chop over the third baseman's head. You know, Phillies won. They're out there celebrating, you know, as if they just made it into the playoffs. It's one game, but it's nice.
Yes.
The Braves are supposed to have a powerhouse team this year. Yours truly is picking them to win the World Series this year. So it's always nice opening day. You win the game, you're ecstatic. But then you want to know something. Then after 5 games, you turn around and you could be 2-3. So it becomes a long haul after all.
Definitely. Good morning to Keith Hayes. He says, can I come on? Well, Keith, I don't have the phone for you to come on right now. And if you talk about coming on a show, go over to Max Sports or Northeast Streaming Sports, message me, and we'll definitely bring you on. We love fan participation, and if you want to come on with us, Keith, set it up. Just give us a message right through our the Facebook page at Max Sports or Northeast Streaming Sports, and we'll see what we can do with that. So heck yeah, why not?
You're just letting anyone come on this show, Matt?
Of course, why not? I mean,
Listen. I'm not talking about him, but a guy just comes off the street.
Well, why not?
He wants to come on and debate us, and you just let him on like that?
Why not, Jack? I take on all comers. So we'll see. If Keith goes ahead and messages up, we'll check him out and see what he's got. So the Yankees, Jack. I mean, here you go, Coach. Cone. Anyway.
Cone, Steve Cone, David Cone, I mean. Ice cream cone, I mean.
Some kind of cone.
Talking about
I have no idea what I'm talking about right now. My mind is just flowing all over the place. Well, anyway, Gary Sanchez, who we have had words about before, saying maybe, just maybe we should get rid of him, right? And I don't know if this is a big deal or not. I mean, he comes in his first game, and I don't think this really shuts up the critics because he has a lot that he has to do. But let's see if I can bring up yesterday what he did here at the plate.
Runs the next year. First pitch to him is a swing and a high drive to left. Gurriel back, and Sanchez has homered in his first at bat of the 2021 season, and the Yankees take a 2-1 lead.
Well, that's what the Yankees have him behind the plate for, his power. It's the second career home run Sanchez has hit against Ryu. That's just his second hit in 3 at-bats, but boy, it's a dramatic one, and just like that, he erases that early Blue Jays lead.
So
home runs the next year.
So let me see if I can stop sharing right now, Jack.
Gurriel back.
Let's see if I can get him off. So anyway, Gary Sanchez, he goes ahead and he hits a home run, a 2-run shot. I mean, I don't know if that means he's going to be an all-star or not, but I mean, it's a good start for Gary.
Big game. He got another hit, plus he hit a ball to the edge of the warning track. He threw out a run at second base. He had a big game. It's only one game, so let's not get carried away. But the good thing about it is, for Gary Sanchez, the way the Yankees lost the game, had Sanchez gone 0 for 4, people like to point the fingers. And they'd say, oh, the Yankees had no hitting yesterday. And then they would point to Sanchez because he's the one that's in the line of fire based on the year he had last year. So by him having the game he had, no fingers are pointed towards him. If anything, he was a major bright spot. And it was a very annoying loss by the Yankees, to say the least. They needed a timing, a timely hit now and then. Jay Bruce is up last of the ninth. There's a man on first. They have a chance to have first and second, no outs, full count on Jay Bruce. Ball is low and away. What's he swinging at for strike 3? So now there's one, instead of first and second, no outs, there's 1 out, a man on first. I mean, it just messed the inning up, like, more or less. And it's so frustrating because all the Yankees needed was a timely hit at the end, and they'd send us all home happy. And when Mike Tauchman stole 2 bases, he's on third base, 1 out. You're hoping someone could lift the fly ball, and it would have been nice, a home opener for the Yankees. Instead, it was a dreadful loss. And when the game lasts close to 4 hours, and you're watching it, and your team loses because they just can't get a timely hit, it doesn't make you happy.
And I agree. And, Torres had a problem against a shortstop, Jack.
A hard hit ball basically was right to him, basically. And he doesn't get the glove down in time. And the official scorer scores at a base hit because the ball was hit hard. Well, guess what? You're supposed to field hard hit balls.
Right.
I'm sometimes thinking, Mac, should there be a new rule where they call a half an error? You don't know for real. For real. The
That's what we
batter
need, Jack.
at bat
Jack, we
is
need
not
another statistic.
penalized.
We need another statistic in baseball. That's all we need.
No, Mac. Normally, if there's an error, it counts against the batter's batting average, okay?
Right.
As if he made an out. So if you call a half an error, it wouldn't count against his average, but he wouldn't be given credit for having a hit.
No.
And that was on Gary. Gleyber Torres should have came up with that ball. It led to Toronto scoring a run, and considering that the Yankees lost by a run in extra innings, that one hurt, even though it was early in the game.
No doubt. But again, it's only game one, Jack. So the rest of the scores that were late last night, again, Cole went for the Yankees. He had 8 strikeouts, but he's still not.
He was shaky a little in the beginning, but
Yes.
he had excellent velocity. All in all, he did okay for first start. His pitch count, Toronto drove his pitch count up early, so he didn't go as far into the game quite as the Yankees wanted, but it wasn't a bad opening game by Cole.
So in the other games, you got the White Sox losing to the Angels 4-3, the Astros blowing the A's out of the water 8-1, and Seattle outlasts San Francisco.
Listen. Even though, Mac, we've had a COVID break, fans haven't forgotten. The fans in Oakland are coming with signs. They're getting on the Astros about the cheating scandal. Like if the Astros were hoping that was all over with because of COVID, all they did was get a reprieve. But certain players, you wonder, who are no longer with the Astros, like George Springer, who's with Toronto, is he going to hear it from anyone or not? Or is this going to be the type of year where people are going to remind the Astros of what happened a couple of years ago?
Yeah, fans don't forget, Jack. That's for sure. So in the NHL, Jack, you had Tampa Bay beating the Blue Jackets 3-2. The Canadians over the Senators 4-1. Carolina over Detroit 3-2. The Stars over the Predators 4-1. The Hurricanes beat Chicago 4-3. The Wild over the Knights 3-2. And in the locals, the Islanders double up the Capitals 8-4. Barzal with 3 goals. Eberle with 2 and Bailey with 1. So, and Nelson, I got to keep going. Nelson with 1 and Kazakis with 1, Jack. So the Islanders turned it on against the Capitals last night.
I'm going to tell you, and that Eastern Division in the NHL is really fascinating. And even for the 4th and final spot to get in the playoffs, where the Bruins 3 points up in the 4th spot, the Rangers only 3 points behind, and the Flyers, who always seem to be fading, they're only 3 points behind, so they could turn it around. We know in the NHL, anyone, who can get into the playoffs has a chance. And even, the teams like the Islanders, the Penguins, the Capitals, they each have 50 points. They're tied for first. But if any of those 3 hit a slump, they could conceivably fall out of a top 4 position. It's not out of the question. So that's a real fun, division in hockey. That might be the most fun division in all the sports right now. Yeah, well, baseball just started, but compared to the NBA, the NHL East.
Yeah. I mean, you had Pittsburgh beating Boston 4-1. Marchand with the only goal for Boston, and the Rangers beat the Sabres in overtime. Blackwell, Chittle, and the Z-Man with a goal apiece. And from what I understand, the Rangers just pulled off a trade with the Sabres, Jack, and they picked up their good player over there and trading away 3 players. I didn't have a real chance to look at it, but from what I just saw before I came on.
Not Jack Eichel, is it?
I would have to go back and look it up.
That would be a big one. That just happened?
Yeah, it just happened this morning. I heard it this morning.
That is a big one.
So the Rangers are moving and doing their thing. I could go look it up while I'm on here.
If that's Jack Eichel, the Rangers are instant contenders. Okay?
So, I mean,
that is a major deal. And if it's 3 players, probably 3 of their young prospects who might not have a major impact this year, but are going to help the Sabres down the line. You know, last night the Sabres tied a game up against the Rangers with 4 seconds left. Then the
Yes.
Rangers beat them in overtime. But that would be major if it's Jack Eichel. If it's not as big.
Well, I'm trying to let me see what I could do here while I'm working up. What you got, honey? I'm looking for the trade this morning. I got my producer working on it right now, Jack, and hopefully I can get you that breaking news with the Rangers on before we get through, at least through the show, at least. So I'll have it for you folks here in a couple minutes. So Jack, we also on Fridays is our NBA review. That's a day set aside for the NBA. Where we kind of look at the standings. We look at what's going on over there, and of course, we always got a little bit of music to go with that. So, Jack, in the NBA, the Utah Jazz has now won 7 in a row again, going on a major run again. They're 36-11, followed by the Suns, who move into second. As you said, they're playing really good ball right now. And, we got the Clippers, Lakers. We also got Portland, Dallas, and San Antonio following them right now. So Denver is surging right now, Jack.
Let me tell you, the NBA West is amazing. We kept talking in the beginning of the year, which of the 2 LA teams is going to go to the finals? The Lakers, will they repeat? Will it be the Clippers? Yeah. Then the Utah Jazz are having a phenomenal year. They joined the party as a big 3. Then the Denver Nuggets, they make a good deal with the Orlando Magic at Aaron Gordon. Plus, they have a top-of-the-line team anyway, so that's a 4th team. But the Phoenix Suns very quietly have the 2nd-best record in the West. So if we include the Phoenix Suns, if we invite them to the party, that's 5 teams in the West who have a legitimate chance of going to the finals. And the NBA is healthy. And then you talk about the East, which you're probably going to get to in a little while too, with the Nets, the Bucks, the Sixers. NBA's fun this year. More fun than I thought it would be, Mac. It wasn't this much fun last year. Why am I enjoying it so much this year?
I think because we're reporting on it, Jack, right? I mean, we've got to know what's going on there. And if you got that, Linda, bring it over to me so I could take a look at it so we can get to that. So in the East, Jack, right, the Nets are in first by a half now over Philadelphia. You got over the 76ers, and, Wednesday, let me see, they're 33-15. The Nets are 34-15. They're followed by the Bucks, Charlotte, Heat, the Knicks, Hawks, and Boston are still below 500.
Let me tell you something. In the NBA East, seeding is going to be very important in the top spot because between the Nets, Milwaukee and Philadelphia, those are probably going to be your top 3 spots. So whoever's at number 1 would play the team seeded at number 4, assuming everything plays out the way we think it will in the first round. In other words, if you're the 76ers or the Nets, you don't want to play the Milwaukee Bucks unless it's in the Eastern Conference Finals, okay? So let's say the season ended today. The Sixers are seeded 2, the Bucks are number 3. Chances are the Sixers and Bucks are going to have to play one another, and the winner of that series winds up playing the Nets. That makes it much harder to get to the finals. But of course, seeding all depends on who beats who during the playoffs. But that's going to be the probable scenario if they finish in those positions. The team that's seeded second is going to be at a much bigger disadvantage than the team seeded first. So I think as we get to the final month of the season, players are going to rest less, and you're going to see those teams make a push for the top seed.
Yeah, I agree, Jack. I mean, we'll get to more about the Knicks when Keith Engel comes on, and folks, we'll have coming up very shortly. We'll have NFL analyst, former wide receiver for a lot of teams in the NFL, WFL, CFL, but mainly known for being a wide receiver on the Giants. We're going to have Byron Williams up, and we'll have Keith Engel up with a lot more sports coming at you right after him. So we're looking at the games last night, Jack, and Detroit beats Washington 120-91. Orlando over New Orleans in overtime 115-1.
No Zion in that game.
Very true. The Heat over the Warriors 116-101. It looks like their team that they just traded to improve is going to start
Victor
improving.
Oladipo made his debut. He didn't do much yesterday, but getting him on the court is going to be a nice boost for the Heat.
Definitely. And you also had Atlanta 134, San Antonio 124. Denver 101, the Clippers 94. And then the locals, the 76ers beat Cleveland. And it was all about the bench for the 76ers yesterday, Jack. You had Shake Milton. He had 27. Dwight Howard had 18 points and 15 rebounds. So the bench for the Nets, their so-called bench, I should say.
Sixers, yeah.
Yeah, really, for the Sixers.
Mac,
really.
it's the Cleveland Cavaliers. You're gushing over the Sixers. You've been talking too much with the Philly guy. You're gushing over beating the Cleveland Cavaliers. Oh, how great. Come on.
Well, I'm just saying, Jack, that a lot of playing time went to the bench, and basically the 76er bench beat the Cleveland Cavaliers first team. So I think that's important that they're getting there. The Nets 111, Charlotte 89. Forward Jeff Grew was the leading scorer with 21. And, the new center, Aldridge, gets his start. He had 11 points and 9 rebounds.
Marcus Aldridge, yeah. Well, the Nets jumped off to something like a 20-point lead at the end of the first period and just basically coasted. When you think of this net team, all the firepower they have, I mean, Harden and Durant could be out. And you got Irving, Aldridge, and so many good guys off the bench. I mean, the Nets are stacked. I'm going to tell you straight out right now, if everyone is healthy for the playoffs with the Nets, and I'm talking about Kevin Durant, Harden, Irving, Aldridge, and everyone else, no one is stopping the Nets in the playoffs if everyone is healthy and everyone's playing.
I don't necessarily agree that no one is stopping them. I think there's a couple teams that could beat them. But they are definitely on paper the best team in the East. There's no doubt about that. We still got the problem with Durant there. A lot of people forget that the Nets had a very good team before this trade. I mean, they were in the playoffs and they were battling before they got rid of their old coach, and they got rid of a lot of young players going with the present instead of the future. I don't know, Jack. We'll see what happens. I still think the 76ers and Bucks can beat them in a 7-game series, but we'll see.
Well, I doubt. We have a difference of opinion. I'm talking about if everyone is there for the Nets, everybody, playing. And I'm counting on the greatness of Kevin Durant, showing up for the playoffs and being the Kevin Durant that we know. I'm basing it on that. Of course, if Kevin Durant isn't playing, then everything is in play. The Nets would still be tough to beat with Harden, Irving, picking up Aldridge. I don't know whether you saw the latest controversy, Mac, with Stephen A. Smith. He was a little critical of Russell Westbrook. Same way I've been on this show.
Yeah.
I mean, Russell Westbrook puts up amazing numbers, and no one's saying he's not a great person. But Russell Westbrook's wife goes on Twitter. Russell Westbrook then responds to Stephen A. Smith saying, well, I'm a champion in life. I don't have to be an NBA champion. I know what I'm all about. Now, he is allowed to be critical. He's allowed to be critical of Russell Westbrook, Stephen A. That's his job. And he's correct. Russell Westbrook just hasn't gotten it done on a high level as far as winning a championship or coming close. And look, he's teaming up with Bradley Beal in the backcourt now. Bradley Beal is one of the outstanding guards. And the Washington Wizards have a very weak team. They didn't get it done at OKC. They went to the finals one year. He had Durant as his teammate. He had Harden as his teammate at OKC, and they didn't get it done. His game just hasn't translated into winning for whatever reason. And it's Stephen A. Smith's job to be critical in certain situations. And athletes only how great they are. They don't want to hear there's anything the matter with their game.
Jack, and not for nothing. A lot of people said the same thing, about a lot of players that played great, right? I mean, we look at Houston's new point guard who used to hog the ball all the time and shoot it. I know you know who I'm talking about.
John Wall?
No. The MVP for the Nets right now.
Oh,
right?
James Harden. Yeah, well, James Harden has been a great team player.
Wasn't he criticized for taking all the shots, not being a team player, and all of a sudden he goes to the right situation, and all of a sudden he's a great team player, right?
Well, if you look at how bad Houston's been since he's left, how they've fallen apart, maybe the best thing for the team is to hog the ball sometimes. Sometimes the best thing for a team is for a superstar player to be a little selfish, to do what it takes to help his team win. That's what Bill Russell would always say. When they ask him, who is better, you or Wilt Chamberlain? He tried to be diplomatic. He'd say, I do what my team needed me to do, and he'd do what his team needed him to do.
The only thing I'm saying, Jack, is that's what everybody said, about the guy who's the MVP over there right now, that he was just a ball hog and he can't win a championship. Said the same thing that everybody's saying about Westbrook. And again, not for nothing, Stephen A. Smith loves to be controversial to get ratings. That's what he does. He is a very, very good to great broadcaster, but that's his shtick, man. That's what he does. He says controversial things to get ratings. That's what he does.
But did he say anything that was wrong about Russell Westbrook?
Listen,
I don't. He wasn't taking a cheap shot. Now, Russell Westbrook described, either him or his wife, described Stephen A. Smith as being a hater.
Wow.
That's not being a hater. You're evaluating a player.
Well.
And if you're wrong about the player, you admit you're wrong about him. Listen, early in the year, I was critical of Julius Randle. I didn't feel he had much of a ceiling. He proved me wrong. He did it on the court. I was wrong about him. He's good enough to be a part of a big three wherever he goes. He can be a Chris Bosh type player no matter what team he is on. Okay? He made a believer out of me. He shut me up on the court. Yeah. I mean, he didn't just, I got the show, and he just tweeted something about me being a hater. That doesn't get it done. That's just whining. But you do it on the court. Let Russell Westbrook do it on the court. Let's see him rally the Washington Wizards and get them into the playoffs. And him and Bradley Beal together make a playoff run.
Well, we'll see. Listen, we'll see what happens, Jack. I'm just saying Russell Westbrook is one of the most dynamic players in the last, I don't know how many years. And you can say what you want about the guy as far as winning. I mean, I guess you could say that about Dan Marino in the NFL too. So let's
Russell Westbrook is one of the most entertaining players. It doesn't translate into winning. Same thing with Carmelo Anthony.
Speaking of the NFL, Jack, we got backstage right now. Byron Williams, our NFL analyst that comes in every week. I know he just got back from working out from what he told me earlier. So he made a live dash to get up here live with us. One of the best knowledgeable guys in football, former wide receiver of the NFL, the WFL, the CFL, and best known for being one of the Giants receivers as they built their team into a Super Bowl. So let's bring Byron up. How you doing today, Byron?
Hey, good morning.
Hey, Byron.
Hey,
And that's-
good morning.
Did you hear what Mac just said? He said Dan Marino was not a winner. Did you hear that? What do you
Oh
think?
my God, boy, does he twist my
Dan
words around.
Marino is in my draft class, so he's a winner. Anybody
Yeah,
in the
thank
class
you.
of 83 is a winner.
Byron, if you believe what Jack's telling you right now, I got a bridge to sell you. You know, Jack was making the point that Russell Westbrook, because Stephen A. Smith said he's this and that, you know, and it doesn't translate to wins. There's a lot of great players that play on teams that aren't on the right team to win it all. And, you know, you got the Knicks, who weren't the most talented team in the world when they made their championship run. But they went to the championship because they had a little bit of fight in them, and they had a little bit of chemistry in them, but they couldn't get it done either. So I guess that makes Patrick Ewing a loser too. So I don't want to hear these broadcasters that come on and say
This is what
nonsense.
I want to say about Russell Westbrook. I don't know if he got the chemistry to win the big championship, because everywhere he goes, seems as there's always tension, and so the chemistry is not part. Chemistry is part of the team oriented
Agreed.
part of how to get to the win championships. I think
I
he's
definitely agree.
some of these players are just making money, and some want to win championships.
You know what it is? I don't think certain players, I don't think that they're selfish, okay? I think their individual game, like Will Chamberlain said it about himself, is too overpowering for the team concept. So I don't think it's attitude or selfishness. I think he's 100% for the team, but his game doesn't translate, quite into winning. Later in the conversation, before you go, I'm going to ask you a question about how the players union works with a couple of these contracts, because I don't understand. You
Okay,
know what
sounds
happened?
good.
I don't know what you're going to mention, Matt, with Jaron Reed, the defensive tackle for the Seattle Seahawks. He didn't want to, redo his deal, but I hear if they redo deals, the player doesn't lose any money. But they still don't want, some of them redo deals, some don't. And all this stuff, I don't know whether you fully can explain it, this dead cap money stuff. I don't have a clue what it's about. Dead cap money and all that.
Yeah, that dead cap money can be money for a player that get his money 5 years from now and don't go against the cap. So sometimes that dead cap money is for future payment for players later on down the road.
Deferred money, basically. Yeah.
So that money just don't go against the cap right now doing this.
But doesn't
this
that allow
currency.
teams to manipulate the rules of the cap?
Yeah.
I mean, it breaks the whole spirit of the competitiveness. Who could cheat better on the cap in a certain way? Maybe cheat's a harsh word, but who can manipulate the cap better?
Yeah, they do these behind the scenes, contract deals for the players, and players get deferred money and stuff. So, when we played back in the 80s and 90s, I didn't know for a long time that Lawrence Taylor had money deferred to 2000, and so back then they didn't have, they didn't have the way they have it today. But some players can negotiate their contract that way. There's a clause in these NFL contract. I think it's Article 13, Section 13 in the contract, that you can put almost anything in that section of the contract, and then longevity. If you want to set it up for you and your family, you can. So,
But what's stopping Nona? Let's just make believe, guys. Jerry Jones wants to sign a player. He has to work within the cap, but he signs him to run his car dealership, let's say, when his playing days are over, and he offers him a huge sum of money for his post-playing career, and says it's got nothing to do with the current cap, the NHL. This is for when his career's over. I mean, can he get away? They haven't been doing that, but
I ain't never heard of that case scenario, but I'm pretty sure there's other ways and means that you can talk about, being creative on how you can, you can negotiate a player's contract.
Yeah, I mean, we could get into a lot of that stuff. I mean, how the cap is counted against the Eagles with Carson Wentz, and there's dead. I mean, we could get into all that, but I think we would need a lawyer and probably a couple agents to get exactly to the bottom of how that's set up. You know what I mean? So let's talk about the NFL for a second. They did add the 17th game And even Patrick Mahomes said it might get something to get used to, but he's going to do what he's got to do. And it was collectively bargained, and they knew it was coming. And the Giants end up playing Miami Dolphins in that 17th game, Byron. That should be very interesting. Last game of the season.
Yeah, that could be a game that's of interest for his playoff run and so forth, for his positioning going into the playoffs. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We knew last year that we're going to be 17-game season after the last year of collective bargaining agreement. They just didn't implement it last year because of the COVID situation, and they had to think it out. And but we knew it was going to be a 17-game season, Yeah, and then other day I was looking at how it's going to affect some of the records based off the 16 games season. You always got to think about that when you're talking about players who, like Eric Dixon, had those 2,000-some yards and in the 16-game season. Now you got 17-game season. How is that going to affect the single season record holders?
Yeah,
I can understand, guys, where the NFL's coming from. Even though you might look at it, well, they play once a week, and you can't compare the number of games in the NFL to the number of games in other sports. But I could compare the number of months the season's going on. And if a team doesn't make the playoffs in the NFL, they're playing September, October, November, December. So they're only actually playing 4 months out of the year. So that's so 2/3 of the year, there are no games going on. If their team doesn't make the playoffs, and even if they make the playoffs, tack on an additional month. So I think the NFL wants to keep their product in the news longer. It's only one more week, but it keeps it going a little longer. And let's face it, even though exhibition games are good for coaches and players and all that, the public doesn't care about it.
No, you don't care about it, Jack.
There you go.
But the public doesn't. No, really, the public doesn't care, even though there's merit to the exhibition season. I'll concede that point.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Go ahead.
I just think that for the young players, first-year players and second-year players, they got to have those preseason games. So you are absolutely right, Jack.
Yeah. I mean, they complain about it, but something. I don't know what you want the teams to do. You want to just suit up and go play games, and practice. It just don't work when you want to. I mean, talk about having to have chemistry between 22 to 45 guys that are playing. Special teams, offense, defense. There's no way to do it if you don't have some kind of live action against another team.
Well, Matt Byron pointed out records. Okay. Like when the Dolphins had their unbeaten season in 72, they had a 14-game schedule. And with 3 playoff games, they were 17-0. New England went to 18-0 before they lost to the Giants. So you could argue New England actually broke their record. You could maybe argue that to a point.
Well, they've changed the games over the years, as you guys know. I mean, it went from 12 to 14 to 16 to now 17. So I don't hear, Fran Tarkenton crying that his record got beat by Dan Marino, who played more seasons and more games. I mean, it's just the way it is. That's the NFL. So, again, people looking at this, which they won't, most people won't, are going to say, well, Eric Dickerson is not the best, the number one back for a season anymore when they, that 17th game may push somebody by him. I mean, it's just the way it is. And it's been changing since, and pre-Super Bowl, the Cleveland Browns were undefeated. Nobody talks about that either. The Cleveland Browns had undefeated perfect season. So, I mean, as it goes on, guys, the records are just the records to me. I mean, it is what it is.
I tell you, right before the Super Bowl, you know how hard it was to make the playoffs? The Baltimore Colts were playing the LA Rams in the final game of the season. The Rams had lost 1 game. I think the Colts had a record of 11 wins, no losses and 2 ties. They had ties then. They lost the Colts their first game of the year, which was the last game of the season, and didn't make the playoffs. Okay, that's how crazy it was. That was in the mid-'60s or so.
Yeah, a lot less teams, a lot less rules as far as the playoffs went. So, in the mock drafts, Now I start kind of looking at them because free agency is over, and it is interesting if nothing else, right? So they have 5 quarterbacks they're saying is going to be picked in the first 10 picks, Byron, right now. That's from these. Honestly, I just don't think the quarterback class is that strong this year. I mean, you got Trevor Lawrence, right? And then after that, you got to drop off. And then we're saying, well, maybe Zach Wilson, maybe Fields. I mean, compared to other drafts, to me, I don't know why they're wasting their picks trying to pick a number 1 draft choice as a quarterback when there's so many different ways they can go.
Absolutely. It's really amazing how I think the 49ers have moved up to the 3rd pick, and they talking about them picking Jones, and so it's just mind-boggling sometimes on how they consider these quarterbacks so important. But the game is built around quarterbacks, and everybody know that. But it's a lot of good talent in this draft. So I guess some teams just want to get that quarterback, but if you look at the history of the NFL and the quarterbacks, some quarterbacks are overrated coming out of college. So I don't know if they can take that team to that Super Bowl.
Listen, I'm a fan of the mock draft only because it's entertaining to me. I enjoy seeing it, the players moved around, the mock draft being changed. I enjoy it. It's fun to look at, but you can only take it so seriously. You mentioned, Byron, quarterbacks who could be overrated. Years ago, Brady Quinn coming out of Notre Dame. Everyone had him going 1-2, 1-2 for the longest time. And then come draft night, he went, in the 20s? So, I think the teams at the end of the day, they really don't slip up too badly on things like that.
Yeah. You do have some players get drafted in the 2nd and 3rd round, of course, quarterback, like Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott, those guys, so, there's different case scenarios on how they rate these quarterbacks and how quickly they can mature coming out of college. And that's the reason why I love preseason game, because it's just like you driving from 30 miles an hour to you going to 100 miles an hour, coming from college to the NFL. It's just that speed of the game and that adjustment and the things that you have to learn on the run and how quickly you can pick these things up. So it's a learning curve. It's a big learning curve, I do believe.
We had a debate yesterday. Could the Alabama football team,
my God, here he goes.
Last year, could they have beaten the Jacksonville Jaguars?
No way.
Not even close.
But they have all these NFL guys. All the guys coming out of their team are going to be in the NFL and be stars, some of them.
They would kick Alabama all up and down the field.
Yes.
I'm just telling you, Jack.
Byron, this is people that never played football saying this kind of stuff. They watch Alabama go up against Ohio State, and maybe they win, or maybe they don't. And they don't realize that when these kids go up to play in the NFL, the majority of them don't start to begin with. Majority of them, unless they got a very good squad that they can attach themselves to. They normally don't start. And then when they do start, I mean, you look at the Giants' offensive tackle from last year, a rookie, one of the best offensive tackles in the league. Played for who, Jack? And he goes in there and he just has to learn how to play against the best of the best men in the league. And people just don't understand that, Byron. You can say no, you can say what you want, but these people, they see, and I'm sorry, Jack, I don't mean to put you in a category.
No,
but think about this, though, Jack. Think about this. It's only about 200, 150, 120 players that make it their first year coming from college. All 50,000 college players, only 100 or 120 make an NFL team.
I'm talking Alabama that's stacked with impact players. That's who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about any college team. I'm talking about Alabama.
They cannot beat Jacksonville. They can't beat the worst team in the NFL.
They couldn't beat the Jets.
How you put it?
So you're saying Mac Jones thrown to Devonta Smith, Jacksonville's going to be able to shut that down?
Devontae Smith never get off the line of scrimmage a lot of time in the NFL. And now he got to learn how to do that. Now, that's the question mark on him. 170-pound wide receiver.
Well, so you went from calling him a transcendent player coming out of college is going to be the best in the last 10 years to a struggling player.
But what I'm telling you, Jack, it's just going to depend how quickly he can pick up the game, how physical his development going to be. He got to lift weights. I mean, they gonna crush him. I'm telling him out the line of scrimmage, he gonna be challenged almost every time.
He's the next Paul Warfield.
Well,
That's
probably
who
so.
he's
I'm not
going
saying
to be,
he's not.
Devonta Smith.
I'm just saying it's gonna be some adjustment that he's gonna have to make in the next 2 or 3 months and before training camp starts. He needs to get around some very important trainers.
Mac doesn't believe in all this weightlifting for Devonta Smith. Mac will just have him running patterns and do.
Well, listen. I mean, listen. And here goes Jack just putting words in my mouth. Listen, Devontae Smith.
Hey, Jack. I bench pressed 360 pounds when I went to the NFL. I had to because you have to it's certain physical that you have to possess this physical game because those cornerbacks gonna challenge him like no other. But I'm just saying, little things like that I see that he must do in order to be competitive and last a long time in the NFL.
Yes, definitely. 100% agree with you. I mean, you can't just run around the field. You got to be strong out there taking them hits and getting off the line of scrimmage. So there's this player. We're speaking of people, draftees and draft college players that don't make it after being drafted. And I want to talk to you a little bit about this because there are some players that are from Division II schools. Jacobs was one of them. Brandon Jacobs for the Giants was one of them.
Right.
That do make it in the NFL. And there's this kid, Zach Davis. He's a all-American punter at 6'7", 245 pounds, but he's also an all-American tight end, Byron. We may see a punter that punts the ball on 4th down and catches the ball on 3rd down so he doesn't have to punt. He may be one of the few players that can play on 2 different teams. And he's wowing the NFL scouts right now at Pro Day.
Every now and then you see those type of players come through. So that doesn't surprise me at all. I'm pretty sure. What are you averaging, about 46, 47 yards a punt? Is he?
Yeah, he's booming them. He's booming them, Byron.
Yeah.
And
you get those types of athletes like that. And that's a rarity, but I'm pretty sure they hot on him because he can bring, he could be one. They can put an extra player in a position on the team with him being that versatile, So that's really good. I'm pretty excited to see that. I hadn't seen that. I'm gonna look him up.
Yeah, check it out. It's Zach Davis, and Division II school. I don't have the school on here, but 6'7" punter and also a tight end, All-American at both. That should be very, very cool to check them out. The Rams proposed a Brady rule. Now, we know the Brady rule is originally to protect quarterbacks' knees because Tom Brady cries every time he gets hit. So the Rams proposes because from the game, Tom Brady threw the ball, got batted back to him, and he threw the ball again and completed it. Of course, there was a penalty called for doing that. But if they took the penalty, it would have left them at 3rd and 15. The Patriots still would have had the ball. If they didn't take the penalty, it would have been 4th and 5. So what the Rams want to do is when a quarterback does that, Byron, when the ball gets batted back to him, play's done. It's over. It just doesn't count. You lose the down. What do you think about that?
I think they should go ahead and play on because I think unless the ball hit the ground, knocked down to the ground, or something like that, then the play should be over. But if because of the consistency of you having a chance to make the first down or score a touchdown, I think it's to keep the game interesting. I think we want to. I think just keep it active and keep it live. That's what I would like to see in football. There's more opportunity to advance the ball.
No, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I've seen the quarterback get the ball batted back to him and take off and pick up a first down or get crushed one way or another. But the Rams are just upset because the Patriots beat them, and that's all that is.
Yeah, and
so,
I would love to see if a lineman can catch it, they have a chance to run with the ball as well. So they're
right.
I think that it just makes more fun for the game. That's what I think.
Yeah, never mind changing the good rules. Let's change the rules that could make the game a little bit more
Can
exciting.
you imagine everyone's an eligible receiver? Can you imagine? Just try it for one game to see how that works.
Oh, my.
Jack,
you want to go to
quarterback? You want to know why? There'd be less of a pass rush because they'd have to guard the offensive lineman. They couldn't just rush the quarterback and leave everyone open like that.
That's called
flag football.
Game.
I was just going to say that, Byron. Watch flag football, Jack. They have that kind of stuff going on. So, I mean, Jack doesn't want people to get hurt. He wants to see all this wild stuff. And flag football is exciting, Jack. It really is.
Hey, last thing happened last week. I went to my oldest grandson's flag football game. So the coach got him hiking, and I told the coach after, I said, I don't want my grandson to be no hiker. You get him the ball.
A hiker. Oh man.
Well, what we did, we were gonna sneak him out and throw the ball to him because he's our best catcher.
It's called a center. You don't even have respect for centers. You call him a hiker. What would Bart Oates say?
Well, I told him I'm teaching my grandson to be a skilled player. I don't want him hiking the ball because he'll never hike on the next level. So,
yes.
So I'm just telling you what I shared with the coach, and the coach, he really appreciated me calling to tell him that. Cause I said, I don't want to never see him hiking another ball.
It's amazing.
Well, after Jack goes, I'm going to tell you something. Go ahead, Jack.
Kids decide. How do they decide their positions when they're young, what they fall into? I know certain guys who are heavy set. They don't have good hands. They're going to be offensive linemen. That's by default, basically. Yourself, you could have been a cornerback, arguably. That would have been, I would think, your second position, my guess. You might say tight end, something.
I was an all-state safety and all-state wide receiver.
They play both ways.
Okay, yeah. But you like the action of following the ball. Even on defense, follow the ball.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Byron, it's a good thing I wasn't the coach of your grandson's team because I would have told you, mind your own business and let me coach the team and that's it. So there you go. That's what I would have said to you. Anyway.
But you know what?
Yes.
You would have been coaching without my grandson. I would have
That's true. And you know something? I would have said, have a great time, Byron.
Listen, I don't argue any more positions. Remember the movie Rudy? You remember?
Yeah, Rudy. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was joking around with one guy who played football, and I said, well, if I played, I would have been Roland Steele. He was the All-American, intercepted a pass. He said, Roland Steele, you would have been the guy who saw Rudy in the locker room and said, Rudy, I think this is a wonderful thing. The guy who just held a clipboard. So I never debated or joked around with the guy after. He got me good with that one.
So, Byron, before we let you go, and this is really bothering me, I brought it up to the Philly guy. So one of your former teams, the Eagles, trade back to about number 16.
12.
So
12.
Well, there you go. Thank you. Even higher. Which if they played the game at the end of the season like they were supposed to and beat the Redskins, that's about where they would have ended up anyway.
They would have got number 9. The difference if they won that game, they would have picked number 9, but because they lost, they went to number 6.
So there you go, Byron. So all that stuff they did to get themselves in a better trade position, a better place to draft, it ended up happening anyway. So as they throw the game, the Eagles threw the game at the end of the game so that Washington could go into playoffs. And I had the Philly guy in, and I gave it to him. He said I need a crying towel, which I probably do. But so see what happens. Here they go. Instead of letting Philadelphia, who was playing their hearts out, play and win the game, the head coach, in spite, Byron had to be in spite with the owner, said the heck with it, we're going to lose it anyway.
Whoa.
Yeah, I still to this day don't see how they lost that game to the Redskins.
But guys, They made the deal with Miami. They got a number 1 draft choice next year. They moved from 6 to number 12 in the first round. And they might still get the player they want anyway, or close to it. And they have a number 1 pick next year. So it's not a bad deal for the Eagles. I mean, no one can say they came out of this poorly, unless they were looking to draft a quarterback at number 6. And let's say they wanted Justin Fields and he won't be there at number 12, but that's not going to be the case.
I'm a type of person, what have you done for me lately? Go ahead and get the player now. 2 years or 1 year from now, 3 years from now, I don't believe in that. It's a right now type of situation with football. They don't give these coaches sometimes 2 or 3 chances to keep winning and go to the playoff. So go ahead and get these players now. Believe in your scout system, the scout these players, and bring in the best possible player to build your team around these players. That's what I think.
I agree, but a lot of times it's a blessing in disguise. The guy you get at number 12 could turn out to be better than the guy picked at number 6, who you would have taken anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it that way, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. Well, as you said, Byron, there are a lot of players on teams, on bad teams, who livelihood, because they want to look into the future, playing in football may end as well as the coaches, and that's kind of crazy the way that works. But that's the way it works. So,
I want to say that it's good to see Jack wearing the Jets shirt there, and hopefully you guys can go to the playoff, because the Giants will be in the playoff this year.
Well,
That's
what
my
would you
prediction.
do with the number 2 pick, Byron? You don't always go out on the limb here. Go out on the limb. What would you do if you go the Mac route or the Jack route? The Jack route is you go with Zach Wilson at number 2. Mac says you stick with Sam Darnold. What would you do? If
I had a chance to get Zach Wilson, I would take Zach Wilson. That's what I would do. But Sam done already showed me what he can do, and
I would take.
He hadn't done that much.
I would take those 2 first-round picks and finally get that guy a wide receiver, or maybe 2 wide receivers, or maybe an offensive line that he could go behind instead of blaming him for the team. Byron, wins and losses is not a quarterback stat. That's a team stat. And, even though he hasn't shown anything, I don't think any of us, and playing on any position in the Jets, would be showing anybody anything in these last 3 years. So we'll see what happens. So
I like the wide receivers that's in this draft, that's for sure. They definitely could use a wide receiver.
They got two chances, Byron. 2 chances to get 2 different wide receivers if they want them. So
Zach Wilson, it's not a huge increase in the talent from Sam to Zach. So I don't think so. Wide receiver.
A lot of these college quarterbacks are not selected on a big body of work. Sam Darnold didn't have a big body of work. Dwayne Haskins didn't have a big body of work. And I'm scared Zach Wilson, he's had 1 good year.
Yeah.
So based on 1 very good year, and Mac and myself, actually, we're going to not speak much about it right now because we're debating on it tomorrow, how important the NFL combines are. How much emphasis we think teams put on it.
Listen, you're trying to get a heads up, trying to get up on a debate, asking Byron's opinion.
I'm trying to get some info.
I know what you're trying to do. No. Byron, don't even. Go ahead.
What I like about the combine is that you really get to know the player's personal side. Everything there's to know about it. Is he's the type of player that you want in the locker room and things like that. Those are the intangible things I think that you get at the combine. And then every now and then somebody run a 4.3 and look really good. So those are some of the things that you get up close view of things. So that's what's good about the combine.
You know what I'd like to see happen one time? Take a guy like Trevor Lawrence. Let me use him as an example. A guy who we all know is going to go number 1. And he refuses to show up at the combine saying, look, I'm going to school. You could speak to my coaches. I'll always listen to my coaches. You saw what I could do on the field in college. I'm not going to go to the combine. Once I get drafted, I'll do anything the coaching staff wants me to. But right now, I'm not on the team. I haven't been picked. I'm just not going to the combine. Would he still go number 1?
See,
No
Byron,
inability.
Byron,
Refusal
again,
to go.
Byron, our debate is tomorrow. He wants to debate with you right now to try it out instead of going cold against me
Well, that's
because he's
good
nervous.
enough. I can
He's
mention
nervous right
Byron
now, Byron. He knows that I'll get him tomorrow on this. Go ahead.
Well, he's number one. He gonna be number one in the draft.
Yeah,
And-
but
and
he
Lar-
just wouldn't show up at the
and-
combine.
And Byron, haven't there been players that haven't shown up to the combine? Would you tell Jack, please?
Absolutely. His players
Thank you.
hadn't shown up and still was drafted where they supposed to be drafted.
Yes.
But they normally have an excuse.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. They said, I'm not coming. So anyway, Byron, again, thank you for showing up. We love having you, your player's perspective, the NFLPA perspective. I mean, we get it with no one else. So you have a great week. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week, Byron.
All right, it's always great. You guys have a great weekend.
See you,
Thanks a
Byron.
lot.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Jack, trying to debate him, trying it out on him before
Well,
me.
they kind of took a cheap shot at me. He took it in a subtle way. What he said about the Jets. So good luck. You're not kind of cheap shot, Byron.
Yeah,
did
all
it?
right. All right, my
You
friend.
have to look. I mean, he didn't make it obvious. You have to
Right.
I know it was a cheap shot.
He's-
I don't know whether the viewers picked up on it,
He's
but
he's
he
smooth.
knows we're hurting right now, and the draft has got to go right for us. And,
He's pretty smooth, ain't he, Jack? I saw that too.
Yeah.
I caught it. All right, folks, we'll be right back after these messages with sports analyst Keith Engel. Will cover a wider range of sports with us right now. He's really good. Stick with us, and we'll be right back.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Infoline. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said it to?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's gonna be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he gonna know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're on live Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, legendary boxing writer Jack Hirsch. And we just had Byron Williams, our NFL analyst, who played in 4 different leagues. He played for the Giants, the Eagles, the Colts, I think even the Lions. Jack, he was drafted by Green Bay Packers, giving us the players' perspective on the NFL, which, you know, a lot of shows don't have, Jack. So I'm glad he comes on every week. He's an NFLPA representative too. He's still involved in the game. Still has a lot of friends in the business. A lot of famous wide receivers and players, and hopefully we can get some of them on in the future.
You know, and he's a very involved grandparent. I don't know, is he too over involved? He doesn't want his grandson to be a hiker. He didn't use the word center. It's called center, Byron.
Yes,
we're going to come back to that next week when he's back on.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention this, Jack, and you spoke about this quarterback in the past. Josh Rosen was invited to the Giants as a free agent to try out. So Josh Rosen may have a shot at getting on the New York Giants football team.
I'm going to tell you, 3 years ago, Josh Rosen was a high number 1 pick. He went, I think, number 9 overall to the Arizona Cardinals. He was there for 1 year. They didn't have much protection. The knock on Josh Rosen coming out of college, the worry about him was he wasn't durable enough because he had a couple of concussions when he was in college. But he showed he was durable. He took a beating with Arizona. They had a bad offensive line. And Arizona would have stuck with him. But then they drafted Kyler Murray. So he moved on. He went to Miami. It didn't quite work out there. He was a little slow to pick things up. Then he was on the Tampa Bay Buccaneer practice squad. And now I didn't hear he might be in play for the Giants. I mean, that's interesting. But they have Mike Glennon as their backup there. And Glennon's got some experience. But according to Troy Aikman, Josh Rosen hasn't even touched the surface on what he's capable of doing. Troy Aikman thinks Josh Rosen can be an outstanding NFL quarterback.
So they're gonna invite him in, and if he does get the invite and they do sign him, he'll be competing for the second string slot at least, Jack. So we'll see what happens. Interesting move by the Giants again.
Could be a steal.
Yeah,
could be a steal. You never know.
You definitely never know. So, folks, we'll be having Keith Engel coming up in a minute. He's finishing up his show, TGI Sports Talk over there, and he pops in about 9:10, 9:12, right around then. So we'll bring him up as soon as he comes in. So, Jack, we'll discuss this with Keith too, but as far as the NCAA goes. But I want to talk a little bit about the NCAA women's Final Four. You have Connecticut there again, and their rookie sensation female athlete there who was voted the best player in the league, in the college league this year in the NCAA. She's a freshman. She does everything. And UConn has a way of finding these people, Jack. These young freshmen that come in and they instantaneously become great.
Great debate question could be, which program has a greater tradition? The UConn women's basketball team or the Duke men's basketball team, if you want to make a comparison. And as far as being a powerhouse, a dynasty type, I would go with the UConn women's basketball team. You know what bothers me about the NCAA women's tournament? The injustice taking place of it being played the same time as the men's tournament. It's just very unfair to the women to have them play their tournament at virtually the same time. Why couldn't it be spread out a little bit? Why couldn't the women's tournament take place right after, right before? So this way the level of interest would be a little higher. And it's all taking place against competing sports. Now we got opening day in baseball. We got the NFL draft coming up. It gets to a point that there's so much going on at one time that one of the major sports outlets has to suffer. And it always seems to be the NCAA women's basketball tournament. And that's unfair because they really have a great product there.
Well, you would think, Jack, and I don't necessarily disagree. That maybe they should hold the tournament after or something. But I mean, when would you play the women's NCAA basketball then? What are you going to play in the fall? I mean, how would you?
Why can't it be right before the men's NCAA basketball?
Because they play.
It would be a nice lead-in for the men.
But they play the same time during the year, Jack. So you're going to say to have these teams, the men's team, wait till they get done? I mean, I don't know how that would work.
Why not move the women's season up a couple of weeks?
That's what I'm saying. Well, more than a couple of weeks. You'd probably have to move it up maybe a month or two to fully get through the whole thing. I mean, especially with COVID this year. I mean, I don't know how you would have even tried to do that. But, again, there is going to be more national interest in the men's than the women's anyway, Jack. That's just the way it is.
Well, it's the same thing with you talk about the same thing with the men's NIT basketball.
Nobody listens.
That's an issue we're going to discuss, tomorrow. We have on the debate show. Scheduling is very difficult because you really do have to take into account other sports, what's going on, and
well, they gotta wait now, Jack, they gotta wait to find out who doesn't make the March Madness tournament before they even pick the teams. So I mean, or the teams get invited. The NIT, me and you are both old enough to remember where that was a big deal. The National Invitation Tournament was huge. But this March Madness is just taking it over. It's almost like it's like now. It's almost like an exhibition. It's like a losers bracket now. I mean, if you like the team, it's your team. You're interested. Other than that, it doesn't matter anymore,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a shame. It
But
really
you
is.
talk about women's basketball, Connecticut, Tennessee, the two storied programs. Tennessee, on the Pat Summit all those years, and Gino Arioletta, at Connecticut. And, they've had a powerhouse. I mean, it's a powerhouse, team at Connecticut, and how Connecticut developed it in the first place with all the universities around the country. And but women's basketball, the ratings with the WNBA, I know, haven't been good, unfortunately. Okay. But if you just see the way they play the game, in a lot of ways they play the game better than the men do. I see teamwork in the women's game, the ball going back and forth, everybody getting involved. In the men's game, you see like more isolation. So if I was going to teach young people the right way of playing the game, I'd have them watch a women's game sooner than I would a lot of, even NBA games. We have a lot of one-on-one isolation, and where players are doing things based more on athletic ability than on teamwork.
It's a great point, Jack, and I agree with that point 100%. I think it's more of a true basic basketball game and program there. But again, I mean, you got to have the interest, and you got to have, it's just the way it is. I mean, they're going to look at the men's basketball before the women.
Mac, when I was teaching, a phys ed teacher, I teach the two-hand chest pass. Does anyone use that anymore?
Yeah.
Cruz's two-hand set shot.
Yeah, that went out with the
style. Bob
that
Cruz,
one, yeah.
two-hand set shot. Well, Cruz was before my time, but the set shot went a little, past.
Yeah, that went out, Jack. That went out with the underhand free throw. So up next, Jack, we have Keith Engel, host of the TGI Sports Talk Show. He's on Northeast Streaming Sports with us. He does a great job, very insightful, and brings a lot to the table every time we have him on. So let's bring up Keith. How you doing today, Keith?
Good morning, guys. I seem to come in at the most interesting moments of the conversations. The two
you said, Mac, the underhand foul shot, Mac felt it went out of style. But Rick Barry was arguably the greatest foul shooter in NBA history, and he did the underhand foul shot.
Well, that's like 40 years ago, though, Jack. I mean, it's like yesterday.
Foul shots are foul shots. I don't want to hear the modern guys are better foul shooters. They haven't changed how far the line is from the basket. Foul shooting is foul shooting no matter what the era.
Yeah, and I don't think it's paid attention to. You know, we were talking about bunting on my show and how it's a lost art in baseball. I think foul shooting's a lost art in basketball for a lot of guys. I mean, it's amazing the guys that shoot in the 60s. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, they don't. It's totally gone from the basics of basketball and baseball to all star power and who has the best dunk and who has the best home run season. It's changed a lot. It's crazy. So
Carlos is stalking me, by the way.
no, Carlos, believe it or not, Carlos is everywhere. Carlos is one of the biggest.
Follow all these shows at the same time.
He's one of the biggest supporters of Northeast Streaming Sports. He's on all the shows.
Excellent. I'll be to that point, Mac. I mean, I know I joke around about him being my arch nemesis now, but I'm glad he's following us. He was just on my show making a lot of comments, and I apologize that I couldn't put them all up because it's hard to do with an interview show, as you know. A little different than my Sunday show, but I appreciate him coming into the shows and giving his input. So all the guests,
yeah, definitely,
all the followers.
I definitely agree with that. So let's start with the NCAA. I know we had that Final Four show. We've been following it. It starts, I think, tomorrow, if I'm correct.
Yep, tomorrow, 5:15, I believe.
One thing we didn't bring up, and maybe we should have, and we didn't talk about it, was, of course, Coach Sampson, right? Coach Sampson got suspended from the NCAA for doing something crazy with recruits, not just at Indiana, but at the other schools he was at. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it a little bit anyway. Because
we touched on it a little bit the other night. We didn't dive into it, obviously.
No.
But
and he left the NCAA and became assistant coach up at Houston.
Yep.
And they paid him a $750,000 buyout or something like that in Indiana. And it calls into question, and maybe it shouldn't, but it does. Houston comes, they've got a lot of different recruits from a lot of different places. A lot of people say a leopard can't change his spots, Keith, and it's true in some certain circumstances. What do you think? Do you think that Houston is taking a big chance at bringing him in there? And even though he is a great coach, there's no doubt about that. He's proven that. You're bringing something like this, and if there is another question about his recruiting, which there will be, I guarantee, because he did it in the past.
Yeah,
does this hurt the program?
Well, any allegations are going to hurt the program. Obviously, what's going on right now in several programs around the country, Arizona, Louisville, with the FBI investigations and whatnot. And sure, I mean, any time that happens, it hurts the school. But these guys. And he's been there now. It's not like he just arrived. He's been there for, 6-7 years anyway. And there's been no allegations. And maybe sometimes a leopard can change his spots. But I can tell you, these guys like Kelvin Sampson, the NCAA gives everybody second, third, fourth chance. Look at Rick Pitino's got it. Rick Pitino's going to turn Iona into if not a giant. I mean, they're going to be a really, really respectable program in the East. These guys are always going to get second chances, and these schools know that they're rolling the dice, and they're willing to. I think they're willing to take what comes with it to get that success while it's there. And hopefully, I hope he's found his way because he's done a great job reviving this Houston Cougar team, which has a pretty rich tradition. They haven't won a national championship, but they were a national power for years until the last, I don't know, I guess, from the 90s to when Sampson got there, really. They had fallen on hard times.
Yeah.
So, you got to keep your nose clean when you can. I mean, it's a dirty game, though. It's a dirty game.
Yes, it is. So we have the two underdogs, which I don't know if you even consider Houston an underdog, they're being a 2 seed. But you got UCLA, you got Houston. Who has the best chance to upset the number 1 seeds?
Oh, Houston for sure. I mean, we talked about the other night. I think UCLA is going to get run out of the gym Saturday night. Houston, though, is going to have a chance against Baylor. I think that game's going to be a pretty high-scoring game. It's going to go up and down the floor. I think Baylor will win out. Just because of their extremely talented backcourt. But it's going to be a really, really good game, I think. And Houston, by far, has the best chance of upsetting the number 1 for sure.
Weren't they lucky to beat Rutgers, Houston?
They were. I will give you that. I mean, every team's going to, well, unless you're Gonzaga, right, this year, every team's going to have a game like that in the tournament. And Rutgers, to be honest with you, lost that game more than Houston won it. Yeah. Rutgers was in control of that game. I think we might have talked about it here last week. They had a 5-point lead with very little time left, and they played not to lose. And you can't, when you do that, you more often than not, you lose. So, yes, they were lucky to get by Rutgers, but other than that, they've played. And again, those games in this tournament can actually help you as you move along. So, and one thing I worry about, the only thing I worry about with Gonzaga, is that they haven't had that game, not just in the tournament, but all year long. They've only lost one game, or they've only not won a game by 10 points or more one time all year.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. It's amazing to me that, a mid-level school who has been very competitive in the past has a chance of going undefeated and winning a national championship. I don't know when the last time that happened.
Indiana, 1975. So
that's a big story in itself.
It is. It is. And they're not. It might have been 75, 76 season, right? I always mix that up because when the seasons cover 2 years, it's always I'm always not sure in my head when the championship season was. But to your mid-level comment, though, Mac, historically, maybe before the last 15 years, but this is a major program now. This isn't a mid-level program, not anymore.
Well, I'm talking about the school itself, Keith. I mean, you're not talking about a major university with a lot of draws and different things.
I'm talking about a small Jesuit university tucked away in the northwest corner of the country, right?
Right. And I mean, to recruit, and to be fair, a lot of small schools, basketball is really good for them because they really can't compete with the major universities in football. Maybe in other sports, but basketball you can. All you need is a good 5, and you're on your way. So I mean, that's kind of a blessing to the smaller schools, the basketball itself.
Yeah, and another thing that's really helped the Gonzagas of the world, and specifically Gonzaga, is they recruit outside of the country a lot too. There's a lot of international kids on that squad, and a lot of these other, all over the NCAA, but some of these schools again, Gonzaga's a power in basketball, but some of these mid-major schools, that's how they get better. They bring in kids from outside the country. You'll see Rick Pitino do it at Iona, I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. So the Knicks drop back down to 500, and while the Nets' new center Aldridge starts contributing right away,
we had to.
But the thing that bothers me, Keith, all right, and this goes, and we'll talk about the Yankees, of course, opening day here in a minute. Yep. But there is a time to make a move, and I don't care how young you are. I don't care where you're at in the standings. If you got a chance, to me, this is me as a GM, and the Yankees do the same damn thing. You have a chance to make a move during the season to make your team better and to compete at a higher level. The Yankees did it last year, not picking up another pitcher. And here's the Knicks. They need a point guard. Derrick Rose is good. He's not great anymore. You need a big man center. They have no center at all. This is when you make your move. You could have got Aldridge for nothing. You would have had a great rebounder inside who could still play inside a little bit. And you don't make the move. And the Nets do and just add to the trophy case. And that drives me crazy when you can get a player that can make an impact for not you're not giving up the farm for Aldridge. You're not giving away all these players. So why aren't you going after Aldridge and trying to get signed?
Wait, Kate, let me just cut in right before you answer. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Aldridge made the decision that he wanted to go to the Nets. It was in his hands. Am I correct with that?
I think that is true, but also more to there's a general point in there too, right, Mac? But I think that, and you have to look to it. If you want to look at those two specific situations, these two teams are not in the same place. The Nets are playing for a championship this year. The Knicks are playing to be in the playoffs, be competitive. They know they can't win a championship this year, most likely, unless something crazy happens. And I think they're positioning themselves for the offseason, and they'll get that point guard in the offseason, whether it's Ball or whether it's somebody else. But they weren't going to. They came to the conclusion they weren't going to give up any of their young talent. Now, Aldridge, Thurman, or Drummond. Sorry, I had Nate Thurman in my mind. Good grief! If the Knicks signed Nate Thurman, we'd have a real big story. By the way,
With the Great Warrior Center.
Right.
You went back to the 1960s too. All
I
right.
just kind of went. I had a time warp go on there, Jack. I felt like you for a second. But and Drummond, I mean, it's good to bring these guys in too. But the other thing you got to think about with the Knicks side is, if you bring these guys in, they're going to take playing time away from some of the kids too. And you still, while you're trying to win and still trying to get in the playoffs, you're still trying to develop these kids at the same time. So it's a delicate balance for the Knicks. And I understand your point. It does get frustrating. You go to the Yankees, a different story. Different story. They frustrate me every year. You get me a starting pitcher and you get me AJ Happ. You don't get me Garrett Cole 3 years ago when they probably would have won the World Series if they brought Cole in that year. So yeah, that fires me up a whole lot more than what the Knicks did at this trading deadline or didn't do. But your point's taken.
I don't know, Keith. I just think they could have kind of Aldridge might have been in his hands, but I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I don't know if the Knicks said, well, we're not going to give you this, or we're not going to. I don't know what happened behind there. I think
Aldridge wants to win. I think he wants to win. Right?
And I agree with that. So make the case that they're going to win with the Knicks and he's getting more playing time. Whatever they had to do to try to entice that guy more. I think the Knicks should be a little aggressive in certain cases. All right. And the Yankees too. I mean, come on, man. I don't care. I don't care about next year because next year may never come. All right. Who knows? Yeah. Randall could get hurt. He's all done. Right. I mean, that could happen too. Anything can happen. Yeah. So why
are a different situation though? I can't compare the two situations.
I agree. I just don't like the GMs not making moves for this year and wait until next year.
I don't think in those cases, Mac, it applies. Like Andre Drummond, he wanted to go to the Lakers. He had his choice. The Cavaliers allowed him to negotiate where he wanted to go to. Like Keith said, they want to win a championship. Going to the Knicks, they're not going to win a championship at least this year.
Not this year.
They want to win. They have a win now mentality, these veteran players.
Well, how about Oladipo then? Why couldn't we go after him harder? I mean, this is what I'm talking about.
Oladipo is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. He agreed to go to Miami. Chances are Miami's going to sign him. We don't know for sure. Oladipo's case is different. I don't think Oladipo had any say in the matter. They could have sent him anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have brought somebody in that would be a free agent that I'd have a shot at after the year. Why give up assets for somebody? And you would have had to give up some major assets for Oladipo. But
Miami, unlike the Knicks with Oladipo, they have an outside chance of coming out of the East. Not a good chance. They came out of the East last year, went to the finals. If Oladipo's at the top of his game and they could get the chemistry back they had last year, you can't discount them. They do have a shot.
No, that's a team that definitely could make a run here at the top at the top teams in the East like they did last year. It's a totally different situation with the bubble and everything last year, obviously, but if there's one team that can come from the back of the pack here, it'd be Miami. I don't see it happening. I think the top two teams there are going to continue to be the Nets and the Sixers, and one of those teams is going to the finals.
Them or the Bucks. I mean, I ain't going to count the Bucks out either.
Maybe the Bucks, but Nets the Nets need to get healthy for the playoffs because they're doing it with all these injuries and plus Kyrie Irving's taking a vacation every 3 weeks.
Well, at the top of the show, Keith, I was discussing with Mac how important it is going to be number 1 seed in the East because chances are number 2 is going to play number 3. If you're the Sixers, you don't want to play the Bucks.
No.
Okay? You'd rather be number 1, play number 4. I think 2 and 3 is going to be a murderous matchup in the East. And if you then have to play the Nets to go to the finals, that's going to be a big, big chore. So if the Nets are number 2, if they have to play Milwaukee or Philadelphia, that might soften the Nets up just enough to give the number 1 seed, be it Philadelphia, Milwaukee, or whoever,
Yeah, I think the number 1 spot's very important there for sure.
Yeah.
So to me, again, guys, I believe in winning now. Tomorrow's never promised, and that's the kind of attitude I would have running the Knicks anyway. Probably not so good an idea, but I would do that. So
maybe you should buy the team. If you buy the team, then we'd be better off with you than James Dolan. But
yeah, there you go. So the game
James Dolan's doing nothing wrong with the. Come on.
Oh, James Dolan, just him being there is wrong, Jack.
He should take his guitar, go play on a street corner somewhere, and just stop bothering people.
Yes, I think so. I think he should just go somewhere, take a vacation, get on a yacht with Jerry Jones, let's go sail around the world for a little while.
We have this.
Jerry Jones. I mean, come on. I mean,
both of them are going to eat dinner and
at least
have
Jerry Jones has got a couple of Super Bowls in his trophies in his.
That's
office.
true. That's true. You got.
hey, you
Listen,
forget about the Rangers with James Dolan. They haven't been that bad.
Well, again, now they've won one cup and 2 cups in 80 years. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they're. Well, anyway, so the Yankees. We got to get to the Yankees. They lose 3-2. Sanchez hits a 2-run home run. It's good that they're not going to run him out of town. If he went over 3, I mean, they would have just jumped all over him. Threw a guy out at second. I mean, maybe I was a little hard on him, but after last year,
No, you weren't.
He deserved to be hard on. Listen,
the worst thing could have happened. I think the worst thing that could have happened is Gary Sanchez hitting a 2-run home run yesterday, because all the Gary Sanchez backers are going to say, "See, I told you," and he's not going to have another big hit for a month. Anyway, don't get me going. Go ahead.
I think we're focused on Gleyber Torres for today, at least.
Again, another peeve I have.
This is going to be very unpopular with everybody that likes the Yankees and follows the Yankees. They should have moved Gleyber Torres to second where he belongs.
Agreed.
They should have picked up a shortstop, and whatever happened to DJ happens with DJ. I mean, listen, he's a great hitter. Move the first baseman the heck out of there. Get it done. I mean, I don't care. If you want to keep DJ LeMahieu, put him at first base, and let's get a real shortstop and a second baseman where Gleyber Torres belongs. I don't care if he played shortstop before he
They could
did
have
it.
signed Didi Gregorius back in the offseason.
I would have done that. I would have done that. I agree with you 100%, Mac. I've been getting beat up everywhere because I've posted a lot of stuff about Gleyber Torres is not a shortstop. Stuff about Sanchez. I mean, defense matters in the game. All these guys care about that come out and defend. And I don't want to get rid of Torres. He's a great hitter. I want him on the team, but he should be a second baseman, not a shortstop. I would have still brought DJ back because, yes, you could have. And if I have to move somebody, it would have been Voit. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be a consistent 40 home run guy. He's just not going to be. He's already hurt this year. He was hurt all last year, even though he played well. And even if you kept Voit, you could have moved DJ all over the field. Stanton's going to play 100 games, so he can play some. You can rest guys and play DJ everywhere around the field. And he would get 140 games in, playing everywhere.
I'm going to tell you, part of the problem is Stanton tying up the DH position. There's a lot less flexibility. Like normally, your ideas are good. Boyd could do some DHing, but you don't have that. You don't have
no,
that.
because he can't play the outfield because he's going to get hurt. The minute he walks into the outfield, he's going to get hurt. So you can't play him in the outfield. Plus, he's terrible out there. And this team is not well. I'm a huge Yankees fan, and they'll do well enough this year. But and I've said this for 2 years, they're really, really poorly constructed. They just are. You got guys playing where they shouldn't be, like Torres. You got Sanchez, who's a liability on defense. Threw a guy out yesterday. Yep, he's got a rocket arm, but he doesn't receive the ball well. He makes every pitcher look worse than they are on any given night just because he's all over the place, trying to catch the ball. He gets one big home run, every 2 weeks, and we think that's enough.
I don't know.
Too many situational hitting. There's so many things wrong with this team, but they're good enough. They got enough talent to go out there and win, 90 some games and go to the playoffs.
Keith, I don't know, is this my imagination, but Aaron Judge who was an outstanding defensive right fielder as a rookie. He seemed to take a step backwards. I mean, he's not a liability, but he was an asset defensively before. I'm not so sure he's an asset defensively at this time.
Not as much as he was, and I think some of that is because he's a more tentative out there. He doesn't just do things by instinct because he gets hurt all the time. He's another guy, right? I mean, he dives for a ball and he gets hurt. So I think he's got it, or they've told him, be less aggressive in the right field and stay healthy. Which obviously we need him healthy, but it's the way these guys train today. It's that's why everybody's hurt. All we care about is training your upper body, getting strong. Did you ever hear of oblique injuries in the 70s or 80s? I mean, who ever heard of an oblique injury?
How many guys pulled hamstrings back in the day?
Not many.
Not many because they train their lower body. You're playing 162 games, right? And everybody knows in almost every sport you play, you need a strong base, right? And that's where everything comes from. Now they build everything from here from the waist up so we can hit home runs.
Listen. I never saw.
Carlos loves the game today, by the way. I think Carlos thinks the game needs to change.
Carlos isn't on top of his game today. I saw something send Stanton to the Twins. Like the Twins are going to pick that contract up. Come on.
I would do that in a heartbeat. You can just send me back a bag of balls. I don't even want anything.
The contract up. He is going to be a New York Yankee through the 2027 season.
Yeah, that's
or he'll be getting paid like Bobby Bonilla for the,
But let's see. I mean, Stanton's got a lot of juice left. He's going to have some good years.
We'll see. We'll see.
I hope on the Yankees' back right now.
I hope you're right, Jack. I just listen.
Jack, all year, all spring. I'm sorry, Mac. I mean to interrupt you, but Jack, all spring I read, Stanton's changed his approach. Everything's going to be different. He's taking a ball the other way. I watched him yesterday, and he looked exactly like the Stanton I've watched for the last 2 years, waving at sliders that he's got no chance to hit. And I'm like, come on. I think the same thing I watched forever.
I mentioned to Mac, I hate to get petty, but that Jay Bruce at bat, on the 3-2 count, where he swung at an awful pitch low and away outside the strike zone, like he made up his mind, I'm going to swing no matter where the ball is. No plate discipline at all. It disgusted me.
Not a fan of Jay Bruce.
The Yankees would have had first and second, no outs, as opposed to man on first, 1 out. It's last in the ninth, and
I think he's right.
Cost him the game.
I agree. I'm not a Jay Bruce fan, and I won't defend him. I didn't want him on this team. I think he's one-dimensional at best. He gives you left-handed power here and there, and nothing else.
I mean, listen, guys. I a lot of people got mad at me when I was saying things in different groups about DJ LeMahieu is not the end-all, whether we go to the World Series or not. What's the problem is we have players out of position. We don't have starting pitchers. And I would have took that money and I would have got us a couple good starting pitchers, got Didi back because he wanted to come back no matter what anybody wants to say. And we would have a good pitching staff right now, and we would have a shortstop that could field, and that's very important.
I will disagree with you on the importance of DJ to this team. He's very important. He's the most valuable player on this team the last 2 years, and you can't just let him walk away. They signed him for a pittance, in my mind.
True. It's true.
A great contract for the Yankees, and they could have still made other moves and brought him back at the price tag they brought him back at. They decided not to.
Kid, I'm still
Sanchez and made improvements elsewhere there.
Kid, I'm still astounded by that contract. 6 years, $15 million a year, $90 million total. I mean, that might sound like a lot of money to people who don't understand how these free agent contracts work. But a player of his caliber, you mean George Springer signed for $150 million for 6 years?
DJ's a much better player.
$90 million. DJ LeMahieu is at least on that level.
He's better player than Springer.
Better player, but let's say he's on the same level. You mean DJ LeMahieu couldn't have done better, get like $120 million for 6 years? And I can't believe the Yankees wouldn't have paid that.
Well, I
can't believe the Yankees wouldn't have given him 5 years, $100 million, but they got him for 6 years and 90. I don't understand.
No, I'll disagree a little bit again. I think the Yankees had a line with DJ. They played hardball with him And he had some. I think he probably could have signed elsewhere for a lot more money. I think he wanted to be a Yankee, and I think the Yankees had a line in the sand, and this is where it was going to be. They may have given him another year that they didn't want to give him, but no more money per year.
I can't believe it. 15 million a year. 18 million. I can understand. A little more, but.
Yeah, I think he's important to the team. But Jack, your point is right. We need to improve at shortstop. We need to improve at second base, and the pitching's always a problem, especially when.
DJ LeMayo's a decent defensive second baseman.
No, he is. I'm talking about shortstop and catcher, basically. When I talk about the defense and first base.
Listen, it's one game, and I always say don't get carried away. But listen, Gary Sanchez deserves no criticism today. He threw a guy out at second yesterday with the bat, a couple of hits, the big home run, hit a ball to the warning track. But now he looked good yesterday.
Well, I saw that about 4 games last year too. So
right, let's wait till Gary Sanchez is hitting 182 in the beginning of May.
I will be the first. Listen, I am not rooting for Gary Sanchez to fail. I keep telling people in these chat rooms when I get in these arguments, similar to what Mac's talking about. I mean, I've infuriated a lot of Yankee fans in the groups I belong to, and I say I'm not rooting for him to fail. I just have seen enough. The eye test tells me, and they throw WAR numbers at me, and they throw this, and I'm like, I don't care. The eye test shows me this guy fails in big spots all the time. He's not a good catcher. He's got a good arm. Doesn't make you a good catcher. A lot of bad catchers have had good arms. And he's not a situational hitter in any way, shape, or form.
Well, the Yankees are investing a lot in him because notice he didn't catch Garrett Cole last year, towards the end. And Aaron Boone's insistent that Sanchez catch Garrett Cole.
We'll see how that plays out after a couple of months.
Let's see. And Garrett Cole yesterday, he was okay, passable.
Yeah.
But you want him to be more than passable. You want him to be dominant. And let's see how Garrett Cole feels about it going forward.
I have found a common ground with Carlos on something. It's Gary Sanchez. So, And I'll be the first guy to admit if I'm wrong. If this guy makes the All-Star team or is having a great year, I'll say I'm wrong. I just don't see it happen.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Realmuto was out there for the grabbing guys, and that I think would have been a heck of a pickup and would have improved the team a lot. So of course, the Red Sox didn't play last night. They're playing today. The Mets. What's going on with the Mets? Are they playing? The schedule is. Are they playing today? It's
Today's off too.
They're off too. So we won't be able to see the Mets, who I think will improve. I don't think they're as great as people think they're going to be, but I think they will definitely improve this year.
Another team with some defensive issues. Again, you got guys playing out of position at third base and left field, and center field's not strong, and they're pitching. Their bullpen was iffy last year, and they basically got the same bullpen, and they added May to it, I think, and that's about it. So
we'll see what happens with them.
The most competitive in all of baseball, in my
division.
opinion. One team at least in the NL East is going to bomb out, not be bad, and it's hard to project beforehand. Is it going to be Miami not taking the next step, or the Phillies, who seem to have improved a little? Are they going to fall backwards, or is it going to be the Mets, like you're kind of suggesting, Mac, who maybe we're overrating?
I think so. I think the Braves are the best team in that division. I think we talked about it a little bit the other day, right, Mac? I think the Braves are the best team in that division overall. When you talk about their lineup, their defense, their pitching.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Braves would be the favorites. And, everybody's short selling the Phillies too. Paz comes on. Listen, the Phillies had a good offense last year. They had problems in the bullpen, like a lot of teams do. If they can solidify that, they were a game out of the playoffs, even though the playoffs were different than last year. So, Keith, let's get to the Pats real quick. All I've got for you is rumors, and this is coming from the Patriots.
Oh, we got,
of course. They're saying right now the plan is for the Patriots to go back in the draft again, all right, because they want to pick up 2 receivers, and maybe a linebacker that would be available there. They know they're not going to get one of the better quarterbacks, which I really don't believe. There are better quarterbacks out there. I don't care what anybody says. This is one of the weakest quarterback classes I've seen in a long time. But anyways, they're talking about this kid, Tony from Florida, who they think is a lot like T.Y. Hilton. They're talking about maybe a linebacker from Tulsa, Sean Collins, and maybe another wide receiver. So they're going to give Cam either a lot of weapons and see if he can throw the ball still, or maybe get a linebacker where they do need help.
The biggest problem I have with all of that you just said was Cam Newton. I don't think we're done at quarterback. I don't think they're going to stay at 15 and I've told I told Jack over and over again that Mac Jones will not be the quarterback here, but there's rumors flying all over the Boston area that Mac Jones will be the pick at 15 too, if they stay there.
Keith, there are rumors that the Niners at number 3 are going to take Mac Jones now.
They'd be crazy if they traded up to 3 to get Mac Jones. They're nuts, by the way, because they could have got him where they
Because they
were.
feel Carolina Panthers at number 8 are looking at Mac Jones.
Yeah, I think. I still think Belichick and the 49ers are going to talk about Jimmy G, and I think Jimmy G will end up back here in Foxborough. That's just my gut feeling. Well, maybe then the 49ers got to. I don't know if you can actually do that like you do in baseball. I'm not sure what the rules are about picking up part of the contract.
Oh yeah,
you can do it. So yes, I don't think they take on all that money. But the 49ers are posturing in the fact that, in my mind, that their plan is to keep Jimmy Garoppolo there. I don't think that's the plan. As far as the Patriots and that draft choice, you're right, Mac. It's all rumors because nobody knows what Bill Belichick's going to do except Bill Belichick, right? And
but he does have a pattern, Keith. He does have a pattern.
He does have a pattern of trading backwards. I agree, and acquiring more picks. I get it, and he may very well do that. That's probably where he's going to go. They talk about the kid, and the name's escaping me. The linebacker from Penn State the name's escaping me now. More mock drafts have shown him being that pick at 15 if they stay there.
Michael Parsons.
Yes, Parsons. Thank you. And which I think would be a great choice if they stay there. But they're not done at quarterback. It's a huge draft for Bill Belichick because he has not done very well in the last several years. And that and the cap issues are what has put them where they are today. And, of course, number 12 not being there anymore. But he's not coming back. So, you got to move on. You got to find somebody to replace him. It's not Cam Newton. It's just not Cam Newton.
And I don't think, and I'll tell you the truth, Keith. I don't think it's anybody in that draft. The only one that might have a shot will be taken with the first pick. So I looked at this draft and they're talking about 5 quarterbacks taken in the first 10 picks, which I think is ridiculous. This is not anywhere close to the strongest quarterback.
I don't think that'll happen. I mean, if somebody falls to 15, if he doesn't make a trade till his pick comes up, and somebody falls there and they're in love with him. I mean, there's some guys. I mean, Ty Lance is a project. Who knows whether he can play or not? I mean, where'd he go? North Dakota State. I think he went to the same school Carson Wentz went to, if I'm not mistaken.
That bodes well. That bodes well.
Who knows whether? I don't know. I mean, you know what I'd like to see draft day? The one thing I liked about last year's NFL draft, the virtual draft they did, is I got to see Bill Belichick's dog make the picks. From what it appeared, his dog was making the picks and not Bill. So,
well, there you go. See, that's his secret. See, everybody thinks he's just masterful trade back. That's the dog hitting the buttons. Real quick, since you mentioned that, Keith, we will have a big draft show coming up the 29th. We will have Jamie Pags down there live. He'll be down there the day before, so he'll probably be on our morning shows too. The day of, he'll be set up right. He says he's going in the middle of the street until he gets kicked out of the street, which he loves getting kicked out of places. But he's been talking to the Philadelphia Eagles, and he's trying to get. He says, "I'm going to harass him all the time." He's going to try and get in that golden circle where they have 20 of the best fans, and if he can do that, it's going to be awesome. So he'll be able to meet the ball. he'll be able to meet the players and all that stuff. So, or the draft picks and all this stuff. So he's really working hard on that. We normally do a segment, me and Jack. I'm gonna let you come on for this, and it's called "It Ain't Gonna Happen." This is where Jack looks into his crystal golden glove, and he tells me the future of the sports that we cover. And it's brought to you by BSTBreaks.com, our official sponsor, folks. So check them out. They got a link on our website. And use the Mac Jack code, MACJACK, and you'll get special deals putting that code in. So let's start with Ain't Gonna Happen. All right. So University of Carolina or Houston surprises Gonzaga and knocks them out of the tournament. And I'm of course I'm going to Jack. He's a man here, so we're going to him first. What do you think?
You said
it ain't
Carolina.
going to happen, but in the NCAA tournament, anything obviously can happen. It's one game. It's a crapshoot to a degree. Gonzaga hasn't really been seriously challenged this year, and Houston's been a little fortunate, Let's see if Houston gets there, to begin with. But no, it ain't going to happen.
And I guess you're agreeing with that from the commentary you gave us earlier, Keith.
Gonzaga will beat UCLA by 30, and they'll beat Baylor by 10, and only have lost that one game, which I believe will be a record, by the way. I think I read the other day will be an NCAA record, only losing one game. Or I'm sorry,
UCLA, I meant, yeah.
Winning a game by less than 7 or less than 10 points. One game.
Right. So UConn wins another women's championship, Jack.
I mean, honestly, I don't know. The name UConn is magic. I mean, in women's basketball, how can you ever say no to UConn? So it ain't. I mean, it's going to happen. They will.
Yeah, I have to agree they will. I mean, again, with the big help from the referees from the other night. Again, I told you the other day, I really feel teams can't put themselves in a position to get beat by referees, but that was just an egregious call the other night that they got away with and ended up winning the game.
Yeah, that was last play of the game, too. So, I mean, they're that close to losing it. Gary Sanchez fools everyone and becomes an all-star this year, guys. Jack, what do you think?
Go ahead, Jack.
The funny thing, I had a feeling Gary Sanchez was going to be one of these questions. I'm a little shook up. And I was thinking in my head, Gary Sanchez is going to be the starting catcher by the end of the season for the Yankees. I don't know why I thought you were going to ask that question, but you're asking all-star. You want to know something? This is going to be crazy. I'm going to say it's going to happen because it's a short season when they make the all-star selections. So I can see Gary Sanchez, based on yesterday, having 2 really good months and then maybe falling off the cliff after that. So I'm going to go way out on a limb, and I'm going to say it's going to happen.
Nice.
He's charismatic, and they'll stuff the ballot box for him because he's got a lot of charisma.
Definitely could be right.
There you go. Jack, you actually have control over that, which you normally don't have control over things. But if you do stuff the ballot box, he could become it. So there
It's
you
going
go.
to happen. Gary Sanchez becomes an all-star this year. Then after that, all bets off.
So not only won't Gary Sanchez have 2 good months and become an all-star, he probably won't even have a good weekend this weekend. Not only won't he make the all-star team, he won't even be the starting catcher by the all-star break. I'll tell you, that'll be my prediction. And there's no way Gary Sanchez is on this team going forward.
So ain't going to happen.
Ain't gonna happen.
Tomorrow, Mac asked me, will Gary Sanchez be sent down to the minors this season? I'd probably say it's going to happen, too. I go both ways. I'm a front runner. He looked good yesterday.
If he has options, he could be. I don't know what his option situation is, but if he has options, and then he may refuse to go. I mean,
no, he won't be. He won't be sent to the minors.
He played really good in the South American leagues. That's for sure.
Well, that's very. You know what? Maybe he should stay there year round.
The Kansas City Chiefs will not even make the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen as far as them not making it. There are a lot of good teams in the AFC. I know they reconfigured their offensive line, and getting Tooney, Kyle Long coming out of retirement. But it's hard. It's hard going back, especially when you lose a Super Bowl the way they have after being there 2 years in a row. And Andy Reid has some personal difficulties in his life now with his son, Brett Reid. So we don't know, is football 100% his focus? Too many intangibles. Of course, they're good enough to go back, but my feeling is ain't going to happen.
I will say, and I'll qualify my statement, which is probably against the rules here, but
we don't have it. Keith.
Is
Nope.
going to happen.
All right.
Is going to happen unless the Patriots find a quarterback.
Oh my God! Here comes that home.
He totally ignores the Buffalo Bills.
Baltimore.
The Bills have a very good.
The Patriots jump over the Bills if they get a halfway.
And Miami. I mean, they're just gonna beat everyone. Okay,
I'll stick to my is.
What about the Cleveland Browns? There are a lot of good teams. The Baltimore Ravens.
I will stick with is going to happen.
Okay, so that's it for the Ain't Gonna Happen segment. We have about 4 minutes left. Let's get into a little bit on this day in sports history.
Can you just let Jack know I got the trivia question right the other night, by the way, while we're doing
I gave you a very
Listening
easy
in the
one.
car.
Let's not brag.
That's the second time Mac used that one.
It is. I gave it to them too, guys, because I didn't want them to feel bad,
Oh, no.
Anyway, this day in sports history, guys, in 1972, New York Mets manager Gil Hodges collapses just minutes after completing a round of golf and dies of a heart attack. A shame. Great player. Was a good manager too, Jack.
Should be in the Hall of Fame. It's a travesty. It's not. When Gil Hodges retired, I think after the 1963 season, he had more home runs than any National League player up to that point. So why, I just don't understand it. I mean, I don't understand it.
That's it.
Definitely a great player and a great manager
From
too.
this side of the plate, I meant,
Yeah.
He was a great defensive first baseman and, a big winner. Had just a great career, great stats, 370 lifetime homers to that point, which was enormous, at 1963 at the time he retired.
No doubt.
And well respected within the game. Most of the guys who played with him will tell you the same thing Jack's telling you, that he should be in the Hall of Fame. It's the writers that didn't agree.
Yeah, I mean, there's things got to change there, but that's a different discussion for a different day.
We should have sports writers, and Jack will be. We don't want to.
I think he get a vote for that. But if you look at Gil Hodges' body of work as a player and manager, Tom Seaver said he was the biggest influence on him in baseball. He showed him how to be a pro.
Met history in the 70s might have been a lot different if Gil Hodges had lived. We don't know.
And Gil Hodges, people loved him. I don't understand this. Why he's not in? He was very popular. Great defensive first baseman.
Because you got people that are voting, Jack, that really shouldn't vote it because they got their own agenda, and we all know.
And they don't watch the games, and whatever.
Yeah. In 1976, Oakland Athletics trade two key members from the World Series team, outfielder Reggie Jackson, pitcher Ken Holtzman, to Baltimore in exchange for outfielder Don Baylor, pitchers Mike Torres and Paul Mitchell. Of course, we know Reggie Jackson ended up with the Yankees. But Oakland always had a way of trading away their great players and rebuilding, and they do it over the years, guys.
Well, they won the World Series 3 years in a row, 72 through 74. Went to the playoffs in 75, lost to the Red Sox. But then there were the contract difficulties Charlie Finley, the owner, had. And he had a fire sale. He just sold players. And Bowie Kuhn, the commissioner, stepped in and said, you can't just sell these guys for money. And, it was a mess. But the following year, after Reggie Jackson went to Baltimore for 1 year, he signed that famous free agent deal with George Steinbrenner, became a Yankee, and the rest is history.
By the way, excuse me, Reggie sat out the first month in Baltimore. If he plays that month, the Yankees won that division and went to the World Series for the first time in a long time in '76. Baltimore might very well won that division if Reggie hadn't sat out that first month.
That's good stuff because I
Yeah.
forgot about
Excellent
that. Good
point.
stuff.
Well, guys, we're coming to the end of the show. And I want to thank Byron Williams for joining us earlier with all his great NFL knowledge. Thanks to Keith for sticking around and doing a couple bits that we do every Friday, always with great information. And Jack, you look very comfy down in Florida. Enjoy your weekend, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Me and Jack will be back on 8 to 10 a.m. with our famous debate show where me and Jack go at it, debating the biggest topics in sports. Everybody have a great Friday, and we'll see you